The alien admiral had destroyed 27 civilizations. Then Earth sent one warship.
9,000 ships opened fire. The human warship didn't run. It waited.
The alien admiral had destroyed 27 civilizations. He had never laughed during an execution. Until Earth sent one warship. The vessel was barely 2 kilometers long, alone against 9,000 alien warships, and it wasn't even trying to run. Admiral Varkin stared at the tiny human ship on his tactical display. Confirm the report. His tactical officer swallowed. Confirmed, Admiral. One human vessel. No support fleet. No hidden contacts. Varkin leaned back. Earth sent one ship? Yes. A slow smile spread across his face. Then humanity has already surrendered. Across the battlefield, the human warship opened a communication channel. A woman's voice came through. Calm. Almost bored. Admiral, before you attack us, I have one recommendation. The alien bridge went silent. Varkin smiled. I'm listening. The human captain said. Tell your crews to stop trusting their screens. The transmission ended. Varkin stared at the display. Then he laughed. Fire. 9,000 ships opened their weapons. And for the first time in the history of the Vorac Empire, their targeting computers disagreed about where the human ship was. Cut. Rehook. Contact lost, one tactical officer shouted. Where? Ahead of us. Another officer spun toward his console. No, it's behind us. That's impossible. I have 3 human ships on my screen. Varkin's smile disappeared. 3 officers looked at their displays. 3 completely different answers. And somewhere inside the chaos, aboard the single human warship, Captain Elena Voss watched the alien fleet make its first mistake. They've started arguing with their own computers, Priya said. Eleanor remained still. Marcus looked toward her. And now? Elena looked at the 9,000 red markers surrounding them. Then quietly said, Now we let them. The alien admiral had destroyed 27 civilizations. He had never laughed during an execution. Until Earth sent one warship. Admiral Varkin stared at the tiny human vessel hanging alone against the blackness. On his tactical display, 9,000 alien warships formed a wall of metal, energy, and fire around it. The human vessel looked almost absurdly small. Confirm the report. Commander Cirque swallowed. Confirmed, Admiral. One human vessel. No support fleet. No hidden contacts. Varkin leaned back in his command throne. Earth sent one ship? Yes. A slow smile spread across the alien admiral's ridged face. Then humanity has already surrendered. Laughter rolled across the bridge. Cirque did not laugh. He kept staring at the human vessel. It was dark charcoal gray, angular, and almost completely without markings. No ceremonial colors. No enormous weapons mounted along its hull. No escort ships. No fighter swarm. Just one ship. Varkin opened a fleet, wide channel. Human vessel. This is Admiral Varkin of the Vorac Empire. Your world has been given one final opportunity to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare for boarding. The answer came after only 2 seconds. A woman's voice. Calm. Almost bored. Admiral, before you attack us, I have one recommendation. The bridge became silent. Varkin smiled. I'm listening. The woman said. Tell your crews to stop trusting their screens. The channel closed. For 3 seconds nobody spoke. Then Varkin laughed. Fire. 9,000 ships opened their weapons. Space became white. The first wave of energy lanced toward the human vessel from every direction. Missiles launched. Particle beams crossed the darkness. Hundreds of targeting systems locked onto the same tiny ship. Then the impossible happened. The human ship vanished. Contact lost. A tactical officer shouted. Varkin stood. Where? Ahead of us. Another officer spun around. No, it's behind us. What? I have 3 human ships on my display. The bridge erupted. Varkin looked toward Cirque. Explain. Cirque stared at his console. I can't. That is not an explanation. I know. He switched displays. The data changed. For one sensor array, the human ship was still directly ahead. Another reported it 12 kilometers behind the flagship. A third showed 3 contacts moving in different directions. Zerk's voice tightened. Admiral, our targeting network is receiving contradictory positions. Jam the interference. We already are. Then increase power. We have. Varkin's 4 amber eyes narrowed. Then destroy whatever is causing it. Zerk hesitated. That may be the human ship. Maybe. We don't know which contact is real. That sentence killed the laughter. Varkin stared at the tactical display. 9,000 ships. Thousands of sensors. Millions of data points. And nobody could tell him where one human warship actually was. Then a new message appeared. It came from the cruiser Karvik. Target acquired. Varkin exhaled. Finally. The cruiser fired. A massive beam tore across space. It struck the human ship. This time there was no disappearance. The vessel took the hit. Its shields flared. A section of its outer hull ruptured. The bridge erupted in cheers. Zerk stared at the damage report. Direct impact. Varkin smiled. So they can be hurt. Another cruiser fired. Then another. The human vessel rolled between the beams, using its damaged engines to alter its course by tiny increments. Not enough to escape. Just enough to make every shot more difficult. Why aren't they running? Zerk asked. Varkin watched the ship. Because they know they cannot. On the human bridge, alarms flashed across darkened consoles. Captain Elena Voss stood motionless at the center of the command deck. Damage report. Priya Ann, and looked up from tactical. Outer armor breach on deck 4. Shield capacity at 82%. Port maneuvering thrusters are degraded. Marcus Webb glanced toward Elena. That was a heavy hit. I noticed. They know they can hurt us now. Elena looked at the main display. The alien fleet was closing around them. 9,000 ships. Every one of them now convinced the human vessel was trapped. Good, Elena said. Marcus frowned. Good? Elena pointed toward the nearest Vorac cruiser. Let them scan the damage. Priya looked confused. Captain? Open the damage section to passive scans. Marcus understood first. You want them to see the weakness. I want them to believe they understand the weakness. Priya slowly turned back to her console. You're feeding them a picture. No. Elena watched the alien fleet tightening its formation. We're giving them a real picture. She paused. And letting them draw the wrong conclusion. Priya opened the passive scan window. The human ship did nothing to hide its damage. The Vorac cruiser scanned everything. Hull temperature. Shield fluctuation. Engine output. Weapon signatures. The data poured into the alien network. Exactly as Elena intended. Across the fleet, commanders began receiving reports. Human shields weakened. Human engines damaged. Human weapons limited. Human ship isolated. Varkin read the reports himself. His confidence returned. Concentrate the fleet. Zerk looked up. Admiral, the contradictory sensor reports are still occurring. Then ignore them. But if the human vessel is manipulating our targeting data, it is damaged. Varkin pointed toward the tactical display. We have seen its weakness. That was the mistake Elena had been waiting for. The fleet changed formation. 9,000 ships began converging. Closer. Tighter. More centralized. The human captain watched the movement. Marcus looked at her. They're actually doing it. Elena nodded. The damage made us desperate. Did it? Elena glanced toward the wounded crew stations. For the first time, the calm in her eyes hardened. Yes. Marcus waited. She continued. It made us desperate enough to make them think they had won. On the alien flagship, Zerk suddenly noticed something. Admiral. Varkin ignored him. Admiral, look at the communications pattern. What? The fleet is compressing. Varkin turned. Zerk pointed toward the display. Every command is passing through fewer relays. Varkin stared. Then he understood. The human ship had been pulling them closer. Not physically. Information had done it. Every report of damage had encouraged the fleet to concentrate. Every contradictory sensor reading had made commanders rely more heavily on centralized confirmation. And now 9,000 ships were moving into one enormous communication structure. Varkin's expression changed. "Open a direct channel to the human ship." The channel opened. Elena appeared on the screen. Her face was calm. Varkin studied her. "You allowed us to scan your damage." "Yes. You wanted us to believe you were weaker than you are." Elena said nothing. Varkin leaned closer. "What are you doing?" Elena looked past him, toward the vast fleet filling the tactical display. Then she said, "You brought them closer." Varkin's eyes narrowed. Behind him, warning lights began appearing across the bridge. One after another. Then dozens. Then hundreds. "Admiral," Sarek whispered. Varkin turned. Every ship in the fleet was reporting a different position for the same human vessel. And this time, the reports were no longer arriving randomly. They were arriving through the very command structure Varkin had just concentrated. Elena watched his face. Then she smiled. Not triumphantly. Almost sympathetically. "You wanted one ship," she said. The channel closed. A final alert appeared on Varkin's display. "Target confirmed." Then another. "Target confirmed." Then another. Thousands of them. The Admiral stared at the impossible screen. His own fleet had just locked weapons. On itself. And somewhere in the darkness, the single human warship quietly changed course. "Captain," Priya whispered, "they're asking for targeting confirmation." Elena looked at the thousands of ships. "Give it to them." Marcus stared. "All of them?" Elena's eyes remained on the display. "No." She waited as the alien fleet prepared to fire. Only the ones already aimed at their neighbors. The first Vorac weapon fired. Then another. Then hundreds. And the galaxy heard the first scream from an armada that had never imagined it could become its own enemy. The first Vorac cruiser fired on its neighbor before anyone understood why. Its beam crossed the darkness and struck a friendly destroyer amidships. The destroyer vanished in a bloom of white fire. Across the fleet, alarms erupted. Admiral Varkin stared at his tactical display. "Who fired?" No one answered. Then another voice came through. "Admiral, the cruiser insists the destroyer was marked hostile." Varkin turned toward Commander Sarek. "Was it?" Sarek checked the identification record. "No." "Then why did its system say otherwise?" Sarek looked at the display. "That is the problem." Behind them, another warning appeared. "Friendly contact." "Hostile contact." "Friendly contact." The same ship. 3 different classifications. Varkin's jaw tightened. "Find the human vessel." "We still have multiple positions." "How many?" Sarek hesitated. 14. The Admiral stared at him. "There is one ship." "I know." Varkin slammed his hand against the command rail. "Then, why are there 14? Far away, aboard the quiet Verdict, Captain Elena Voss watched the confusion spreading across the alien formation. She had expected this. She had not expected it to happen so quickly. "Status," she said. Priya and looked over her console. 14 false tracks. 7 command channels are contradicting each other. Their fleet identification system is rejecting some of its own confirmations. Marcus Webb looked at the tactical display. "They're shooting at each other." "Not yet," Elena said. A moment later, another Vorac vessel fired. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Now they are." Elena did not smile. "Good." Priya turned toward her. "Captain, they're adapting." The display changed. Thousands of alien ships began shifting formation. Varkin had stopped relying on the corrupted tactical network. Instead, he ordered every fleet commander to verify targets through local sensors. The contradictory contacts began disappearing. One by one, the fleet regained a coherent picture. Priya frowned. "He's cutting around the problem." Marcus nodded. "He's smart." Elena watched Varkin's flagship move away from the main communication lattice. He finally realized the network is the battlefield. Priya looked at Elena. "What do we do now?" Elena pointed toward the nearest clus. "Nothing." Marcus turned. "Nothing?" "Let him solve the problem." The Vorac fleet began separating. Large groups detached from the central formation and moved into independent attack sectors. The human warship was suddenly surrounded by thousands of smaller formations instead of one massive fleet. Varkin opened a channel. This time his voice carried no laughter. "Human Captain." Elena accepted the transmission. "Admiral, you manipulated our targeting systems." "No." Varkin narrowed his eyes. "You expect me to believe that?" "I manipulated nothing you did not already build." Silence. Serk looked toward his admiral. Varkin's expression hardened. "You exploited our communication architecture." Elena said nothing. That was enough. Varkin understood. The human ship had not created false orders. It had not invented phantom ships. It had simply allowed information to travel through a system that could not guarantee every commander received the same truth at the same moment. The admiral cut the channel. "Disconnect the fleet." Across the armada, communication links began shutting down. The great Vorac network fractured into thousands of isolated command groups. For several seconds, the bridge of the quiet verdict was silent. Marcus looked at Elena. "They just disconnected themselves." Elena nodded. "Yes. That should make our job harder." "It does." Marcus stared at her. "You sound pleased." "I am." Priya finally, they understood. "They can't hear each other." "Correct." "They can't compare reports." "Correct." "They can't know what the other groups are seeing." Elena looked at her. "Now you understand." The human ship changed course. It did not attack. Instead, it moved slowly through the fractured fleet. A single transmission left the quiet verdict. Not a command. Not a threat. A report. A Vorac commander received it. His face changed. The message contained a fleet authorization record. His formation had been ordered to retreat if the human ship breached the outer defense line. The order was genuine. But the commander had never seen it. He immediately contacted another ship. "Did you receive this?" "No." "Why not?" "I don't know." Across the battlefield, another commander received a different message. His fleet had been assigned emergency fuel priority. The record was genuine. But he had never been told. He looked toward the supply vessels. "Who authorized this?" No answer came. A third commander received evidence that his damaged ships had been removed from the flagship's evacuation priority. That was also true. He stared at the message for a long time. Then he asked his tactical officer. "Did the admiral know about this?" The officer hesitated. "I don't know." The commander looked toward the distant flagship. For the first time, he wondered whether Varkin had ever intended to save them. On the Vorac flagship, Sarek watched the reports multiply. "Admiral." Varkin ignored him. "Admiral, we're receiving internal records from our own command systems." "Block them." "We can't." "Why?" "Because they're authentic." Varkin turned slowly. Sarek continued. "The human ship isn't fabricating anything." Varkin stared at him. "Then what is it doing?" Sarek swallowed. "It is deciding who learns what." Varkin said nothing. Sarek looked at the thousands of disconnected formations. "They aren't lying to our fleet." He paused. "They're letting our fleet discover the truth at the worst possible time." Varkin's eyes narrowed. "Then stop listening." Sarek looked confused. "To what?" "To everyone." The admiral gave a new order. "All independent commanders will operate without external communication until further notice." Sarek's face fell. "Admiral, that will prevent coordination." "I know." "It will also prevent them from verifying your orders." "I know." Varkin stared through the bridge window at the human ship. "That is the price of removing the human advantage." His fleet went silent. Thousands of commanders were now alone with their own sensors, their own orders, and their own doubts. On the quiet verdict, Priya watched the network map collapse. "Captain, we lost access." Elena nodded. Marcus looked at the empty tactical channels. "So our advantage is gone." Elena looked at him. "No." She pointed toward the silent fleet. "Our advantage just changed." Marcus waited. Elena said nothing more. Priya studied the display. Then she noticed something. One communications signal remained active. Tiny. Buried beneath layers of military traffic. It was not connected to the fleet network. It was transmitting authentication data. Priya's expression changed. Captain. Elena turned. What is it? Priya enlarged the signal. I don't know. Marcus stepped closer. Then why is it transmitting? Priya looked at the data. Because something inside this fleet is still issuing orders. Elena stared at the signal. For the first time that day, her expression became completely serious. Can you trace it? Priya shook her head. Not yet. Elena looked back toward the thousands of silent alien ships. Then find it. Marcus frowned. You think that's their backup? Elena shook her head. No. She watched the tiny signal pulse again. Backup systems are designed to survive failure. Another pulse. This was designed to survive trust. The human bridge fell silent. And somewhere inside the 9,000 ship armada, something that had never appeared on the main tactical network continued sending orders. The humans had thought they were breaking the fleet apart. They had just discovered that someone had built a second command structure inside it. And whoever controlled that structure had been watching them from the beginning. Elena leaned closer. Does the signal know we're here? Priya watched. It shouldn't. But it changed frequency. Marcus looked at Elena. That means it detected our scan. Elena's eyes narrowed. Then, we are no longer hunting it. She stood. It is hunting us. Another pulse crossed the display. Inactive channels opened. No voice came through. Only one line appeared. Asterisk asterisk, we know where you are. Asterisk asterisk. Priya stared. Marcus whispered, Captain? Elena remained motionless. Then she said, now we know we're not the only ones playing this game. The message remained on Elena Voss's tactical display for 3 seconds. We know where you are. Then it disappeared. Trace it, Elena said. Priya's fingers moved across the console. I can't. Why? Because the signal didn't travel through the fleet network. Marcus stepped closer. Then how did it reach us? Priya looked toward Elena. It was already inside our communications. Nobody spoke. Outside the bridge, the alien fleet continued drifting in thousands of disconnected formations. Without the central network, the armada should have been blind to itself. Instead, something was still coordinating pieces of it. Elena studied the tactical display. Show me every transmission that occurred before that message. Priya pulled the data forward. Thousands of signals appeared. Most were ordinary. Navigation. Weapons. Fuel. Emergency reports. Then Priya isolated one narrow stream. There. A pulse moved between several command vessels, then to a small vessel far behind the main formation. The ship looked insignificant. No heavy weapons. No carrier bays. No massive engine array. Just a compact command vessel surrounded by defensive escorts. Marcus stared. That thing? Elena nodded. It has been receiving every high-level authentication request since the fleet disconnected. Priya looked at the data again. It isn't commanding them. No. Then what is it doing? Elena answered quietly. Proving which orders are real. Marcus understood. The Fleet Command Authority. Elena nodded. The Vorac fleet had severed its communications network, but it had not severed its dependence on legitimacy. Certain orders still required authentication. Strategic withdrawals. Weapons restrictions. Supply access. Fleet-wide changes. The commanders could ignore the central network. They could not simply ignore the authority that validated the orders, keeping their forces supplied and coordinated. Marcus looked toward the command vessel. So that's the real center of the fleet. No, Elena said. It is the one thing they still trust. On the Vorac flagship, Admiral Varkin received a private report. The human ship has located the authority vessel. Serk's expression tightened. How? We don't know. Varkin stared at the tactical display. Move it. Serk hesitated. Admiral, relocating the Fleet Command Authority will require a fleet-wide authentication. Then authenticated. We disconnected the network. Reconnect only the vessels required. Cirque looked at him. That would expose the command structure. Varkin's eyes narrowed. Leaving it exposed is worse. He issued the order. A small number of ships reconnected. The command vessel began moving. Elena saw it immediately. They're relocating. Priya looked up. Do we pursue? Elena shook her head. Not yet. Marcus frowned. Why? Because we aren't the only ones who noticed. Across the fleet, commanders saw the same movement. The command authority was leaving its protected position. And now every commander had a question. Why? Some assumed the admiral was evacuating. Others believed the human ship had already compromised the command vessel. A few thought Varkin was preparing to abandon them. Within minutes, 3 independent fleet groups changed course. They were heading toward the same vessel. Elena watched their trajectories intersect. That's our opening. Marcus looked at the display. The Admiral's loyalists are going after it too. Good. You want them to fight? I want them to choose. The first alien ships reached the command vessel. They did not fire. Instead, they demanded identification. The escort commander refused. A second fleet group arrived. Its commander transmitted a warning. Stand aside. The escort commander answered. By whose authority? Silence. That single question spread through the formation. By whose authority? The admiral had created a fleet that depended on obedience. Now every commander needed proof that obedience was still safe. Varkin understood the danger. Destroy the human ship, he ordered. His loyalists moved. But several captains did not respond. Varkin repeated the command. Still nothing. Cirque looked at him. They're waiting for authentication. Varkin turned slowly. I am the authentication. Not anymore. The admiral's expression hardened. Then reconnect them. We can't. Why? Because the human ship has already made them afraid of what they might receive. Varkin stared at the fleet map. For the first time, his enormous armada looked less like an army and more like thousands of isolated decisions. On the quiet verdict, Elena watched the same thing happen. Captain Priya said, the fleet is splitting. Let it. They're forming autonomous groups. That was inevitable. Marcus looked at Elena. Can we reach the authority vessel? Not without crossing the center of the fleet. And that? Elena looked at the damaged section of their ship. Our engines won't survive a direct run. Marcus's expression tightened. So we retreat. Elena shook her head. No. She pointed toward 3 converging alien formations. We make them clear the path. Priya looked confused. How? Elena opened a channel. Not to Varkin. To the nearest independent alien commander. This is Captain Elena Voss of the human vessel. The alien commander answered cautiously. What do you want? Elena looked at the command vessel. The same thing you do. We don't trust you. You shouldn't. The commander paused. Then why are you contacting me? Because Admiral Varkin is about to order your ships to protect a command vessel that he may destroy himself. The commander went silent. Elena continued. You have one choice. What choice? Get there before he does. The channel closed. Marcus stared at her. You just told them where we're going. Elena nodded. Exactly. Priya suddenly understood. They'll race the admiral. And force his ships to race them. Marcus looked at the tactical display. 3 alien groups accelerated. Then 5. Then 12. The entire center of the fleet began moving. Ships that had been protecting the command vessel started repositioning. Not toward the human ship. Toward one another. Varkin watched the formations collide. Stop them. His officers tried. Some obeyed. Others demanded authentication. Then another group refused. The admiral's voice rose. Execute my order. Cirque stared at the display. Which order? Varkin turned. Cirque pointed toward the fleet. You've issued 6 different priority commands in the last 4 minutes. The admiral froze. They cannot all be obeyed. Cirque looked at him. And they cannot all be trusted. On the quiet verdict, Elena watched the alien fleet unravel. But she did not celebrate, because the command vessel was still moving, and its escorts were changing formation. Priya's voice tightened. "Captain." Elena looked over. "They've stopped running." On the display, hundreds of alien ships turned toward the quiet verdict. Marcus swallowed. "They're coming for us." Elena stood. "How many?" Priya checked. 600. Marcus looked at Elena. "We can't fight 600. Elena nodded. "No." He looked at the approaching fleet. "That's why we're not going to fight them." The quiet verdict's engines ignited. Instead of fleeing, the human warship accelerated directly toward the 600 ships. Marcus stared at her. "Captain, what are you doing?" Elena watched the enemy formation tighten, making them move. Then the first alien ships broke formation to avoid collision. The second wave followed. Then the third. The 600 ships began shifting sideways, opening a narrow corridor through the center. And beyond them, exposed for the first time, the Fleet Command Authority vessel became visible. Priya stared. "The path is open." Elena nodded. "Then we finally know where we're going." Behind them, Admiral Varkin watched the human ship enter the corridor. His face hardened. "Close it." But no one could. The ships around him were no longer waiting for his order. They were waiting to see what everyone else would do. And that was the moment Varkin finally understood what humanity had been building since the first shot. The humans had never needed to control his fleet. They only needed to make sure he couldn't. The corridor was closing. 600 Vorac warships were moving toward the quiet verdict from both sides, their engines burning as they tried to seal the gap around the human ship. Priya watched the tactical display. "They're converging." Marcus looked at Elena. "How long?" 20 seconds. The captain remained still. The command vessel was ahead. The Fleet Command Authority was within reach. But the path they had created was disappearing. "Can we outrun them?" Marcus asked. Priya shook her head. "Not with the damage we have." Elena looked toward the damaged section of the ship. The outer armor was still glowing from the earlier strike. One maneuvering thruster was barely responding. Their shields had fallen below 50%. The quiet verdict was not invincible. And now the enemy knew it. "Then we don't outrun them," Elena said. Marcus understood. "Go through." Elena nodded. The quiet verdict accelerated. Alien ships rushed toward them. Weapons fire erupted from both sides. The human ship rolled between two cruisers, missing one by meters. A beam struck the rear armor. The entire bridge shook. Priya grabbed her console. "Shield capacity 41%. Keep us moving." Another impact. 36%. Marcus looked at Elena. "We're taking too much fire." "I know." Ahead, the Fleet Command Authority vessel was accelerating toward a protective formation of larger warships. Elena stared at it. "That's our target." A new transmission entered the bridge. "Admiral Varkin." "Captain Voss." Elena accepted it. His face appeared on the main display. He no longer looked amused. "You have reached the end of your advantage." Elena watched him. "You disconnected your fleet. I removed your ability to manipulate it. You removed their ability to trust you." Varkin's expression hardened. "You believe a few frightened commanders can defeat an empire?" "No." Elena looked toward the tactical display. "I believe they can make their own decisions." Varkin leaned forward. "Then watch what happens when I make the decision for them." The channel closed. A command appeared across the alien fleet. "All loyal forces, protect the Authority vessel." Hundreds of ships turned. Then hundreds more. The corridor disappeared. The human ship was surrounded. Priya stared at the display. "Captain, we're trapped." Elena looked at the command vessel. "Not yet." The first wave attacked. The quiet verdict's shields dropped again. 30%. 26. Marcus shouted over the alarms. "Port engines are failing. Switch power to starboard. We'll lose maneuverability. We only need it once." Priya looked up. "Once for what?" Elena pointed toward a narrow opening between two alien cruisers. "That." Marcus stared. The gap was barely large enough for the quiet verdict. "Captain, that's impossible." Elena looked at him. "So is sending one ship." The quiet verdict surged forward. Its remaining engines screamed. The ship tore through the gap. 2 alien cruisers collided behind it. The corridor opened. The human vessel emerged directly beneath the Fleet Command Authority. Priya stared. "We're underneath them." "Good." The command vessel's escorts turned their weapons downward. Elena gave one order. "Hold position." Marcus looked at her. "Hold." The alien ships fired. The quiet verdict raised every remaining shield. The impact shook the entire vessel. Lights went dark. Priya fell against her station. Shield capacity 18%. Elena looked toward the command vessel. "Prepare boarding teams." Marcus turned. "Now?" "Now." He opened the internal channel. "Diego, you're up." The response came instantly. "Understood." Deep inside the ship, Marine Commander Diego Ruiz sealed his helmet. He moved through the boarding bay. The docking clamps fired. The human assault craft launched. Outside, the quiet verdict continued absorbing fire. Varkin watched from the flagship. Boarding craft detected. Zarek looked at the display. "They're going for the Authority vessel." "Destroy them." Several Vorac ships turned. Then stopped. Varkin's eyes narrowed. "Why did they stop?" An officer answered. "They are requesting authentication." "I'm giving it." "They aren't accepting it." Varkin stared. His own fleet was beginning to reject his commands. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is Admiral Varkin. All loyal forces will destroy the human boarding craft immediately." A response came. "Authentication required." Varkin froze. Zarek looked at him. "You disconnected the system." Varkin's voice dropped. "Reconnected." "We can't." "Why?" "Because the Authority vessel is moving." Varkin turned toward the tactical display. The command vessel had begun accelerating. Not away from the humans. Away from everyone. Zarek's eyes widened. "The Authority vessel is executing emergency protocol." Varkin stared. "What protocol?" "Self-preservation." For the first time, Varkin looked afraid. The Fleet Command Authority was not a weapon. It was a symbol of legitimacy. If it was destroyed, no commander could verify strategic orders. The Empire's military would become thousands of independent fleets. Varkin made his decision. "Destroy the Authority vessel." Zarek looked at him. "Admiral? You heard me. But if we destroy it, we lose the command system." Varkin's eyes hardened. "If the humans capture it, we lose everything." Across the fleet the order spread. "Destroy the Authority vessel." The response was immediate. Silence. Then one commander answered. "Negative." Varkin's face tightened. "Repeat." "Negative." Another commander joined. "Negative." Then another. "Negative." The command vessel's escorts began moving between the Authority ship and the Loyalist fleet. Varkin stared. "They're protecting it." Zarek whispered. "They're protecting their own future." On the quiet verdict, Elena watched the formation change. Marcus looked at her. He ordered them to destroy it. "Yes." "And they refused." Elena nodded. "That's the crack." The boarding craft reached the Authority vessel. Diego's team breached the outer hatch. Inside, alarms screamed. Vorac security troops rushed toward them. The Marines moved with controlled precision. No shouting. No wasted shots. They advanced through the corridor, securing each junction. Diego reached the central access chamber. Command vessel secured. Elena heard him. "Find the Authority core." "We're moving." Varkin watched the human boarding signal advance toward the core. His fleet was collapsing around him. He opened a direct channel to Elena. "You think capturing that system will make you ruler of my fleet?" Elena answered immediately. "No." "Then why are you doing this?" "Because you built a fleet that cannot act without permission." Varkin stared at her. "You don't understand power." Elena's expression remained calm. "No." She looked at the thousands of ships surrounding them. "I understand people." A pause. Then Varkin said, "You will never control them." Elena looked toward the tactical display. I don't need to. Behind her, Priya suddenly spoke. Captain. Elena turned. The Authority Core is online. Elena closed her eyes for 1 second. Can Diego reach it? Priya checked. He's 30 meters away. Then every light on the bridge turned red. A massive alien fleet group had entered the system. 2,000 ships. They had been held in reserve outside the battle. Varkin smiled for the first time since the battle began. You forgot about them. Elena looked at the new formation. Marcus stared. 2,000. Elena watched them surround the damaged Quiet Verdict. Her shields were at 14%. Her crew was exhausted. Her boarding team was inside the enemy command vessel. And now the final reserve had arrived. Elena took a slow breath. Then she opened the fleet channel. Admiral Varkin. His face appeared. You finally understand. Elena looked at him. No. She glanced at the tactical display. I finally understand why you kept 2,000 ships outside your network. Varkin's smile disappeared. Elena said, You were never protecting the fleet from us. She looked directly into his eyes. You were protecting yourself from them. The channel closed. For the first time, Varkin had no answer. And inside the Authority vessel, Diego reached the final door. He placed his hand against the control panel. The door opened. Beyond it waited the system that every commander in the Vorac Empire still trusted. The Fleet Command Authority. The door opened with a hiss. Diego Ruiz raised his weapon. Beyond the threshold stood the Fleet Command Authority. It was not a weapon. It was not a throne. It was a room. A circular chamber filled with black consoles, pale blue conduits, and a single transparent column descending from the ceiling into the center of the floor. Priya's voice came through Diego's helmet. Captain, we're reading an active authentication core. Elena answered from the bridge. Secure it. Diego stepped inside. His marines spread across the chamber. Vorac security troops appeared on the upper walkway. They raised their weapons. Diego did not fire. Stand down, he ordered. The aliens hesitated. Then one lowered his weapon. Another followed. The rest slowly stepped away from the consoles. Diego looked at them. You don't have to die for an order you don't trust. Nobody answered. Then the alien commander removed his weapon from his belt and placed it on the floor. Neither do you. Diego nodded. Agreed. On the Quiet Verdict, Elena watched the feed. Priya. Yes. Can we access the Authority Core? Priya studied the data. Yes. Can we control the fleet? No. Elena expected that answer. Good. Marcus looked at her. Good? Elena turned toward him. If we could control them, we'd be no different from Varkin. Before Marcus could answer, the bridge shook. A violent impact slammed into the Quiet Verdict. Priya grabbed her station. Shield capacity 9%. Marcus looked toward the viewport. The 2,000 ship reserve had closed around them. Hundreds of alien weapons fired at once. The ship disappeared behind a wall of light. Elena steadied herself. Damage? Forward shields failing. Port engines at 30%. Hull breach on deck 7. Marcus stared at the tactical display. They're going to finish us. Elena looked at the Authority vessel. Not if Diego reaches the core first. Inside the command chamber, Diego approached the transparent column. A Vorac officer stepped forward. You don't understand what that system does. Diego looked at him. Then tell me. It doesn't command our fleet, it verifies strategic orders. I know. You could use it against us. Diego glanced at the Marines. We could. Why won't you? Because that's why you surrendered. The alien looked toward the core. He understood. The humans had not defeated the fleet. They had made obedience optional. On the bridge, Priya suddenly shouted, Captain. Elena turned. The reserve fleet is preparing a coordinated strike. Marcus looked at the display. Can they fire without authentication? Yes. Then we're done. Priya shook her head. Not exactly. She enlarged the tactical map. The reserve fleet is receiving 3 different orders. Elena stared. From whom? Varkin. Two loyalist commanders, and the authority vessel. Marcus looked at Elena. Can the authority vessel issue a stand-down order? Not by itself, Priya said. It can authenticate one. Elena understood. The humans didn't need to control the fleet. They needed to give the commanders a legitimate choice. Open a fleet-wide channel. Priya hesitated. To all 9,000? All of them. The channel opened. Elena's voice spread across the fleet. This is Captain Elena Voss of the human vessel. Thousands of commanders heard her. We have reached your command authority. Varkin immediately interrupted. Do not listen to her. Elena continued. Your admiral ordered his own command authority destroyed rather than allow you to choose what happens next. Silence spread through the fleet. Varkin shouted across the channel. She is manipulating you. Elena answered calmly. Then verify it. She transmitted the authenticated order. Destroy the authority vessel. Every commander received the record. No interpretation. No deception. Only the order. The fleet went silent. Sarek stared at his console. The record was real. Varkin had signed it. One commander spoke. Admiral. Varkin answered. What? Did you order the authority vessel destroyed? Varkin said nothing. Another commander asked. Admiral? Finally, Varkin answered. Yes. The commander looked toward the authority vessel. Why? Varkin's voice hardened. Because the humans must not possess it. A third commander spoke. So, you would rather destroy the system than let us decide? Varkin snapped. You will obey. The reply came from somewhere inside the fleet. No. Another voice followed. No. Then another. No. Across the tactical network, ships began powering down their weapons. One by one. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The 2,000 ship reserve stopped firing. The quiet verdict remained alive. Elena watched the weapon signatures disappear. She could have used the moment to force the alien fleet into surrender. Instead, she said, Tell them they are free to leave. Marcus looked at her. You're letting them go? Yes. After everything they did? Elena looked through the viewport at the silent fleet. We came here to stop an invasion. She paused. Not start an empire. The order went out. The Vorac fleet began retreating. Some ships moved immediately. Others remained. They were watching the human warship that had entered their formation, and the commander who had every reason to destroy them but chose not to. On the authority vessel, Diego received the final confirmation. The fleet is standing down. Elena answered. Good work. Diego looked toward the alien commander beside him. Do we leave? The alien shook his head. Not yet. Why? The commander looked toward the core. Because I want to see what happens when we choose. Back on the bridge, Sarek opened a private channel. Elena accepted it. The alien commander appeared on her screen. You could have destroyed us. Yes. You could have controlled our fleet. We never could. Sarek shook his head. You had the authority. Authority isn't control. He studied her. Then what did you want? Elena looked at the silent ships outside. One chance for your people to say no. The channel closed. Hours later, the Vorac fleet withdrew. Only a single damaged warship returned home. The quiet verdict crossed Earth's outer defense line under its own power. Its armor was burned and its shields nearly gone, but its crew was alive. On the bridge, Marcus looked at Elena. Elena watched Earth growing larger through the viewport. Not like this. Priya turned from her station. How can you be sure? Elena looked at the stars beyond the planet. I'm not. Marcus smiled. You really expected this? Elena shook her head. No. She looked at the damaged ship. We expected someone to think they were unbeatable. The three officers stood silently as Earth filled the viewport. Far away, the former Vorac fleet returned to its worlds, and for the first time in generations, its commanders were asking what they wanted. The galaxy remembered the battle as the day one human warship faced 9,000 enemies and survived. But that wasn't what changed the galaxy. The real victory happened when 9,000 ships stopped waiting for one voice to tell them what to do. One question remained across the defeated fleet. Why had Earth sent one ship? The answer became a story repeated across worlds. Because we didn't need 9,000. The answer was always the same. They didn't win by being stronger. They won by making strength a choice. The quiet verdict disappeared into Earth's atmosphere. They had counted ships. Humans had counted decisions.